conversations. Let's have real conversations.
Get ready to stir it up.
Life events and everything in between. Let's go.
Get ready to stir it up.
No capping. If got you covered right up.
Get ready to stir it up. Stir it up.
Come on.
Get ready to stir it up.
Welcome to another episode of Stir It Up. Today we're talking to Monica Inoka. Did I get that pronunciation right?
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. Well done to me. And Monica is a more coach.
Yes.
I met Monica a couple of weeks ago through a mutual friend. And what was meant to be a 20-minute conversation ended up being almost an hour and a half. And she was talking about wellness and just supporting people with their general well-being and how their mindset shifts and so on. And I thought, you know what, this might be worthwhile talking about on Stir It Up. So here we are. Today we're going to be talking about limiting beliefs and self-sabotage. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
It's really
It's
good to
been
have you.
amazing.
Yes. And you've been in Accra for a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yes, I have.
What's brought you here?
Well, first of all, I love Accra. You know, and I love the way you pronounced Accra, right? Not Accra, okay, Accra. And in fact, my family has been asking me, hope I'm not planning to relocate. Yeah, I love Accra. I'm here because I have a transformational event called Manifest Your Dreams that we, were supposed to have, and we have one happening today. Manifest Your Dreams workshop to help people to become better versions of themselves, manifest those dreams that they have long forgotten, or they thought that they would never ever see become visible or achieve. And so that's what I'm doing here today.
So you're kind of a dream catcher, dream maker, or dream inspirer of sorts.
You can say that.
We could say that. Thank
Yes.
you. So we're going to be talking about limiting beliefs and self-sabotage today. And as people, we carry a lot of what we call limiting beliefs. And ahead of this conversation, I spent a little bit of time doing a bit of speed date reading on what limiting beliefs were. And one of the things that jumped out at me was the thought that the only thing that limits us are the things that we believe, really. Otherwise, the world is pretty much our oyster. So just as a way of, helping those listening to us, a thought like, I'm too young, I'm too old, I don't have enough time, I'm tired, I'm not that smart, I'm not worth being loved. I have found are some limiting beliefs in my short education. But those are things we say to ourselves all the time. How are these limiting beliefs formed, and why do they become beliefs that we hold on to? So maybe you could kind of give us a bit of an insight into how they are formed.
Okay, so the thing is, we're given the tool, the mind, for a reason. And the mind is a very powerful tool. That's where we store all of our thoughts, our beliefs, and our feelings, and everything constitutes the mindset, right? So when things happen to us, depending on how we react to it, the mind forms its perceptions, right? The thoughts around what happened to us comes to us we say it over and over again to ourselves, and we believe it. So whether it's true or a lie, if we have rehearsed this over and over again, we're going to believe it's true. So limiting beliefs come from our experiences that we have generated thoughts from, and we have we have had these thoughts recycle or go over and over in our minds in such a way that we now feel that is the truth about ourselves. We internalize our perception of what had happened. Our beliefs now change to fit in to what we have decided that was the meaning, or the meaning that we ascribed to that incident, and it becomes the program that runs our lives. So let me explain in clear terms now what limiting beliefs is. Limiting beliefs is a lie that you tell yourself over and over again, is not annulled. We've become to believe it, and then it becomes the barrier that holds us from reaching our full potential.
So do we begin to form these limiting beliefs because we're trying to manage our own expectations, or we're trying to cope with something, or because what I hear you say is it's a lie? And I recently had a guest on in my last season who was talking about defense mechanisms, right? And she was talking about how a defense mechanism is supposed to make you feel safe. And it's something that you tell yourself as a way of, protecting your ego and protecting yourself. Would a limiting belief be a kind of a defense mechanism that you tell yourself as a way of protecting yourself as well?
Sometimes limiting beliefs are defense mechanisms.
Okay.
But the truth is, it may serve you at the time you adopted it, but after some time, it limits you.
Got it.
That's why the word limiting, something that takes you away from your limitlessness, right? And makes you smaller than you truly are. So let me give you an example. A child that is 2 years old sees his father and mom, and this is a true story, right? His father and mom are always fighting, every day arguing, and the only way he could cope with that was watch a movie, a cartoon, and the title of the cartoon was Rocky. And Rocky, every time Rocky comes as the hero, the person that calls out to Rocky is always stammering, Rocky, right? And the child now decides for himself that the only way that he can go through this stage in life is by stammering. Well, is that true? No. That was how he could cope through it. That was what he decided at that time based on what was happening. But now, the child is no longer a baby. He's 35 years old. He wants to be a salesman. He wants to be a motivational speaker. The stammering is holding him back. But he doesn't even remember that this limiting belief came from when he was 2 years old and he decided this was the way to go. But he's holding back. It no longer serves him. While he was going through, and this was with Anthony Robbins, right? Yeah. So while he was going through a coaching session, he immediately remembered, because using tools and interventions, he remembered that was what he said to himself then. And that was the earliest time he remembered he started stammering. And it was resolved. So the limiting beliefs no longer serve us, but we have held on to them and they've kept us in a box.
I'm always constantly amazed at how powerful the mind is. Okay. Because it's like you're just saying, this was something he did to protect himself as a young 2-year-old, or however old he was, right? And it becomes a part of him. And what I hear you saying is a limiting belief is also formed in your subconscious. You're not always conscious about how it comes to be, right? And so you also need to be quite sensitive to or self-aware that this is a belief that you have in order to be able to even begin to resolve it. And so it might be really hard for people to even recognize that they have this belief, or to even, you know, try and work on it, you know, in their lives. My next question would be around men and women. And I asked, do you think men and women have different levels of limiting beliefs? And I asked this question because we all show different levels of emotion and different levels of need and so on. Would one gender be more prone to having limiting beliefs than the other?
All right, so limiting belief is not, it has nothing to do with gender, right? It's more to do with your experience, your perception of life, how you were conditioned, your environment, because your environment and sometimes your religion. You know, there may be some people that have very strong perception about certain things, and then they pass it on to you. You know, maybe teachers and all of that. It has nothing to do with the gender, really. And, you know, the funny thing is, some people think that more women have limiting beliefs. But the truth is, it's just because they are more vulnerable. They are more open to processing, you know, their thoughts and what is going on. I know a lot of men too that have limiting beliefs because they are more caged, they are more guarded. They feel that they may need to look stronger than they truly are. They feel, you know, as a man, you're not supposed to be weak. You know, that's what we're conditioned to think. And so they bottle up emotions, and these emotions can erupt anytime. You know, I was sharing the example the other day of the guy Twitch, Twitch that just passed on. All of a sudden, no one knows what he was going through, but we all know that there must have been a limiting belief there somewhere that would make him take his own life instead of taking the risk of sharing what he was going through with someone. All right, so that's a guy that bottled up something. His wife didn't even know what he was going through. So there's so many people that are going through. It just depends on what is going on in your life. It really has nothing to do with your gender.
Got it.
Yeah.
So let's unpack it a bit more. So you've said your experiences form your limiting beliefs. You've said the way you're raised will inform your limiting beliefs. What else influence the limiting beliefs that you form? Well,
experiences. Trauma is experiences, but trauma also forms your limiting beliefs. The trauma comes when trauma hits you. Sometimes, you know, you don't know how many things that you tell yourself while it is happening. And sometimes it may not be your direct experience. It may be someone else's. And let me give you an example, because I love examples. Right?
Because it makes it easier to understand. Yeah. And relatable.
Yes. So there was a young lady who was about to be raped, and her younger sister was with her. And, you know, they were really fighting. It was so traumatic for the elder sister, right? When after the incident, they got a therapist for the elder sister, you know, because everyone felt so sorry for her, and you know, it was really traumatic. But they failed to recognize that the younger sister was also traumatized by that experience, and they didn't realize that till she was about 25 years old. The limiting belief she got from all of that was her sister was more important. She needed to be like the sister to get the kind of attention that she wanted for her life. Yeah. And whatever she felt did not really matter because she was not as valuable. So she tried all her best her goal was to look like the sister
and be like
the sister. And she wasn't authentic until she started seeing a coach as well, group coaching, and that came out, and she was able to face the sister, tell the family what she was going through or what she had been going through all of these years.
To borrow a Nigeria phrase, now wow, because you could be walking around and you bump into somebody and say, "Oh, Charlie, I see this fine girl. I want to go out with this girl," and then you're in love, and then you'll be just end up with someone who's carrying baggage, right? And that baggage is not because the person is a bad person. It's just the person has an experience.
It's just because of the lenses the person is wearing.
And the lens the person is looking through.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because in that same experience could result in the person looking at it as, I need to fight, I need to be strong, no one should be able to take advantage of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that could be the lens someone who had the same experience could be looking through. But this person has chosen to look at it through a completely different lens. And it's amazing the way the brain works and the way people interpret situations and the way people view things. Is there another example you'd like to share?
Yeah.
Please.
So, growing up, I watched my parents, right? So, is this a personal example? We're 3 girls. I watched my parents really want a boy. Because, as Africans,
you have to have a son.
Yes, you have to have a son that would
carry the name of the family.
You get that,
yes.
Right? And there was pressure from my father's family. My dad is the only boy.
Why are you having only daughters?
Yes, and my dad is the only son too, and there is no son as well. So I watched all of that drama, happen in my family while I was growing up. Even though I didn't believe it was true, but remember that everything you see, your mind is a fertile ground. Good seed, poisonous seed, they grow in the mind. So after a while, I didn't notice that I started to believe it too, that girls are not as valuable as boys, right? And so when it came to me doing the things for myself, going for my dreams and all of that, I noticed I was holding back. At some point, my mom asked me a question one day. She said she noticed that I'm not as ambitious as I was when I was growing up. And I didn't know why as well.
Yeah.
But it was like 8 years ago that I realized why, right? Yeah, it was because I had internalized that girls are not as valuable. And so we should work like 10 times more to even be noticed. Or so instead of doing all that work, why not stay in my shell? So I was kind of in a shell sometimes. I wouldn't speak up when I'm asked to, maybe I'm having a presentation. I was the manager of a bank. You asked me to do a presentation. I could talk to you right now. When I get in front of all of my colleagues, I could go blank. It was affecting different areas of my life because my belief in myself was low. But I had everything I needed. I know it, but when I come up there, something else just takes over. And I found out that it was because of that. I told myself that so many times without knowing it. So it was a program. Just like you put up your computer, right? You don't see the programs but you are able to just use it. If it's Excel that
It's
was
running in the background.
Yes, it's running in the background. You're not seeing the data. You're not seeing the one,
And zeros.
zeros, all those things. No, you're just using the computer. And if you have a faulty program, you would have a bad experience using it, of course. And that was just what it was.
So I'll tell you. I'll tell you an interesting thing. I have two daughters, and I remember my father would always say, in our local dialect, "Oh, Akua wo bema ba ko ka ho na we wie," meaning, you know, have one son and then you're done. And me, Charlie, I had made up my mind. I was having two children and I was done. And I'll say, "Oh yeah, Daddy, I'll do it." But I knew, I mean, because I kind of made the personal decision. I was having two children, right? I always wanted more, but when I started having them, I just realized this is too much of an investment. At a point in time, I made that decision. But it was always interesting to hear him talk about having a son, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I see what you're talking about, and I see where in our African culture, male children always have a significant value. And I can see how you can immediately begin to feel like sons are more valuable, right? But you know what's interesting? Daughters are of immense value.
Of course.
They care. They come back. They're consistent, you know. So it's also a thing about just opening your eyes and the lenses that you look through. Because I wouldn't trade my two
daughters.
I wouldn't trade them for anything else. But at the same time, I see how society sees someone who has just daughters and doesn't have sons.
Yeah. And so limiting beliefs, let me say this, right? They are not just about what you think. They are also what you have absorbed from the environment without knowing. Because they are unconscious. You may not know when it's seeping into your subconscious, and then you harvest them.
Okay.
Just like it was Carl Jung that said this, that except you make the unconscious conscious, it will run your life, and you call it fate.
Yeah. And you just think that it's expected, but really,
I think it's my personality. I could have thought that's my personality, but I know that deep down there's more to me, but I can't really tell why when I go there. I can't explain it. It's like almost convulsive. It's something I can't even explain. Some people get angry, pick fights easily with their colleagues, spouses, all that.
and they say that's how I am. Take me like
yes,
that.
Yes.
But really,
I mean, no nonsense person.
no, but that's a limiting belief.
Yes.
And I'll tell you a story about a colleague when we're done with this.
Okay.
Let's move on and talk a little bit about self-sabotage. So, as people, we think that we always want the best for ourselves. And we'll always do things that serve us and are in our best interest. So it's always interesting to see when someone is doing things that everyone else can see, but the thing you're doing doesn't serve you. The thing you're doing is not in your best interest. And I assume that's what you call self-sabotage. Why do people self-sabotage? Why? What drives that?
Okay, so limiting beliefs drives self-sabotaging behaviors. So the belief, remember your thoughts first of all. When you said those thoughts to yourself over and over again, it has occurred in your mind over and over again.
I'm not good enough.
Yes, it now forms your belief, right? And then the belief now becomes, of course, the thoughts affect your feelings. So you do that over enough times to form the belief. And the belief now informs your choices, right? Then your choices become your action. The decisions you make become your action. So when you feel like you're not good enough, your actions are going to reflect that. because your action are the words of your mind. Your actions are the words of your mind. You know, once a mentor told me that don't listen to people with your ears, listen with your eyes. So their action will tell you exactly what's going on within. Right?
Okay.
So
give me a concrete example of that.
So let me give you an example.
Somebody says, I love you, but their action, okay, yeah, give me an example.
All right. So let's call this guy Charles.
Yes.
Right? Or Charlie.
Charles.
Okay, so Charles, right? And Charles grew up with this mother that is so self-absorbed. She's going through her own challenges, but then she's selfish. She doesn't give them any attention. She, does everything, buys all the stuff for herself. When the children ask her for anything, she complains and she's angry. And so Charles observes this woman. He has been observing her for like 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Charles' belief, limiting belief from that is, it's wrong to ask for help. Next thing he also decides is, when you ask for help, you're disturbing someone, so I wouldn't ask for help. So Charles struggles with communicating his emotional needs, or even asking people for anything, even in his business. So he has this proposal that he's supposed to give to a prospective client, but is under his pillow or on his desk for weeks, and he's not able to send it out. He procrastinates on it, right? And he holds on to that for months until the opportunity, he has lost the opportunity, and he probably now gives it to them really late. He may think that is his personality. I'm withdrawn, I'm independent, I'm shy. But the truth is, he decided that for himself because of what the mom was doing. So yeah, got the limiting beliefs, and now has now birthed this self-sabotaging behaviors that maybe look reckless, and if you really look at it in business, it's reckless.
Yeah.
But he's not able to get out of it because he doesn't even know is there.
Can you share another example? Because I think examples make it more tangible for people listening to us. So another example of how it's formed, and a formed limiting belief, and how it impacts.
Okay. So
we've done Charles. So do one for Esther.
Okay, so there's Esther that when growing up, the dad kept telling Esther, you're not good enough, you're an imbecile, Esther. Why are you doing this? He talks to her anyhow. Esther feels she needs to prove to the family that she is what, she's what more. And she becomes this overachiever, right? She's got 3 masters, she's got an MBA, she's doing her PhD, and she can do any other thing. She's stressed,
but
right?
She's going.
She needs to prove to the family that she's good enough. But she, even with all of that, she still feels sad because she's not fulfilled. She's not doing what she thinks she was called here to do. She feels caught in the loop. She can't stop. And she's seeking for approval. She's caring for everyone because she wants everyone to love her more. You understand? She's seeking for approval. She's taking a lot from people. People talk to her anyhow, and she would bear it. She's not able to set clear boundaries because she feels she's not good enough, underlining all of those achievements is the person who is seeking for love. Esther could also be someone who now decides to get into a relationship where someone abuses her because she's seeking to have the same familiar feeling in a relationship as what the dad who was emotionally abusing her, was doing. So she gets into one relationship or the other where people abuse her, and she keeps going back to them because she feels
That's a trauma bond of sorts that's
Yes.
been formed.
Yes, she feels, what, this is better to do this because it's familiar. And that's what the mind does. The mind protects you, but it can only protect you in the past, right? And what you want for yourself, your gifts, your talents, need to show up, in the future. It needs to show up in the present. When you keep holding back, it will never allow you, right, to do what you're not comfortable with. So you would keep going back to the familiar past rather than choose an unknown victory. And so that's why it limits you.
So we will always choose to go back to what we know
Yeah.
than try something new.
Yes.
Scary. How do we then begin to encourage people to explore new paths?
So what I do is I tell people that they are not here to be just the roles that they play, that they are limitless, right? They are here on an adventure.
A safari.
Yes. All right. And so if you can be more open, have a growth mindset, because what limiting beliefs do is that they keep us stuck. They make us have a fixed mindset, and when you are not growing, guess what? You're dying. So if we can have a growth mindset, be more open, try new things. Don't go to work the same way you go to work. Get up from another part of your bed. Start to tell your body that you are the captain in charge, right? A new sheriff is in town. I don't need to do the things the way I used to do them. Because this autopilot living that we sometimes find ourselves in, wake up in the morning, do the same thing exactly the same way we do it. Remember I said the way we do anything is the way we do everything, right? So you start to change up things, right? Learn a new skill. Do something new, something exciting. There's a way it changes, your brain cells and expands your mind, right? Be more open, and then question and challenge the things that you've believed, because most times we don't even ask ourselves, this thing I've been doing for so long, why am I even doing it? Why do I really do it? Why do I hold my toothbrush this hard? Or why do I walk the way I walk? Or why do I always have to ask myself? In fact, observe your thoughts. The other day, that was about 5 years ago or so, I caught myself. Because when you start to think about what you're thinking about, you actually catch yourself and your limiting beliefs, and when you quickly tell yourself those lies, right? So I caught myself asking, I wanted to do something for myself, and I said, so what would they think? And I asked them, I immediately caught myself and said, what would who think?
But it's interesting you say that. So the first season of this podcast, I recorded it and sat on it for easy 4 months. And it just sat there, and I just kept on saying, should I put it out there? Do I really want to put myself out there? You know what I mean? And I guess it was just limiting beliefs, right? Not feeling like I was ready to put myself out there, not feeling like, but it's also things that I love doing, right? So I see where you're coming from, where it's like, what would people think?
Yeah.
How would other people feel? And it wasn't always necessarily about me, you know, but it was everybody else. You know, so I see exactly what you mean. Like, it's and you give it a lot more weight than you should give it. And at the end of the day, you think about it and you realize that those who matter won't mind.
Exactly.
And those who mind probably don't really play a significant role in your life anyway. You know, so.
And who matters most is you. Yeah.
So one last question. How do we begin as individuals to influence, if there are two things we can begin to do to influence the limiting beliefs that are happening in our life or featuring in our life, how do we begin to do that?
So the first step is identify areas of your life that you're struggling with. That's just a clear example of where, or an evidence of where limiting beliefs are. What am I struggling with? Because if you don't have limiting beliefs, you're going to sail through them, right? Just like you said, you had that for 4 months. You may not have noticed because you're busy doing work too, that you were struggling with that. But when you look back and say, oh my God, it's 4 months and it's still there, you notice the struggle, right? So what are you procrastinating on? What have you...
Because we make time for the things that matter to us.
Yes, yes. You know, what are you saying I don't have time for? Because I don't have time is also a limiting belief. What you need is not time management, really. It's energy management, right? So if we can understand what is important to us, prioritize it, then we can ascribe time to it. Another thing that we need to do that is very, very important is to actually face our fears by writing out all of those limiting beliefs and start to question them. Where did they come from? If you have the courage to do the work, then you would free yourself from those limiting beliefs. And if it's too much for you, make sure you engage a coach or a therapist, because you need it. You are worth it. Those gifts, talents, the desires, the ideas that you have, then God is not going to come on earth to release you and let you, reveal those goodies that have been deposited inside of you. Only you can. And I know that some people say, one last limiting belief, divine timing. They are waiting on divine timing.
Oh, there's a God. We believe there's a God.
But guess what? They fail to realize that divine timing means that thing that God has given to you, that is always there, ready, waiting for you, right? To get yourself in alignment with it, will not happen until you, the vessel, the container, is ready for that greatness. So divine timing is waiting on you.
To be ready.
Not the other way around.
Yeah.
So get yourself ready. Say yes to yourself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that it's a start to this conversation, and I appreciate that it's such a small thing, but we don't realize that we're doing it. that we are limiting ourselves and we are pretty much our own worst enemies. And we are the ones who hinder our own progress. So it's really good that you are sharing these thoughts with us and we are giving it a name for people to begin to acknowledge that when I say I don't have time, it means you are limiting yourself. When you say I'm not good enough, you are limiting yourself.
Yeah.
And thank you for throwing a bit more light on this for people to understand it a bit more.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I love having this type of conversations because they liberate people from the stronghold, from the shackles, right? They need to be free. They need to enjoy their lives, right?
Yeah.
And in my language we say imela or inemofuma, right? Which means you're doing very well.
Where do you come from?
I'm Igbo.
You're
I'm
Igbo.
from yes, I'm from Nigeria, the eastern part of Nigeria.
So when I say where do you come from, I mean where do you come from in Nigeria? No, you're Nigerian. Anyway, so now I'll make you a cocktail and then we'll do the fun part. So give me 2 seconds. So here we are at the fun part of all of this. Not that the conversation is not fun, but I've made you a cocktail. And the one requirement is you're meant to guess one thing that's in the cocktail.
Okay.
And so you taste it, and you tell me.
But do I need to taste it to know? I can already see.
Or you can see
tangerine.
You can see ice.
I can see tangerine ice. Okay, thank you so much.
The liquid portions. So I need to be actually clear on my brief. The liquid portion. So let's see.
Liquid portion. No, I can't guess. I know
Tangerine.
tangerine. Okay, let me try it again.
Good.
No, I don't know what it is.
Stir it up. I ain't telling you anything. Stay
But it
secret.
tastes good.
Thank you.